You were born poor. Maybe your parents struggled to keep the lights on. Maybe you watched them work themselves into the ground and still come up short at the end of every month. Maybe you wore hand-me-down clothes and ate the same cheap meals on rotation. That wasn't your fault. You didn't choose your starting point. But here's the truth that will either offend you or free you. If you die poor, that is your fault. This is the story of a man who refused to let his birthplace become his burial ground. At 28, Andre worked as a warehouse stock clerk earning $14 an hour. He lived in the same subsidized housing project where he grew up, Building C, Unit 204. Same cracked walls. Same broken elevator. Same view of the parking lot where his father's car sat before it was repossessed. His mother, Maria, had raised him alone after his father left when Andre was 7. She spent 22 years as a hotel housekeeper, her hands permanently roughened by chemicals and labor. She never earned more than $12 an hour. She never owned a home. She died at 56 with $847 in her bank account. Andre buried her 6 months ago, wearing a borrowed suit because he couldn't afford one. Standing over her casket, he made a silent promise. I'll do better. I'll break this cycle. 6 months later, nothing had changed. He was still living paycheck to paycheck, still buying groceries with the same EBT card his mother used, still riding the same bus to the same dead-end job. He scrolled through his phone watching old friends, the ones who went to college, post photos of new homes, promotions, and vacations. And somewhere along the way, he had settled into a belief that millions of people share. I'm poor because I was born poor. The system is rigged. People like me don't get ahead. Every morning, stocking shelves in the warehouse, he'd think, what's the point? I'm 28. No degree, no connections, no inheritance. This is just how it is for people like us. His coworkers felt the same way. Lunch breaks were spent trading grievances, rent prices, the widening wealth gap, how opportunity only flows to people who already have money. Andre nodded along. It felt true. It felt like the only honest explanation. And that's the trap. Because blaming your circumstances is comfortable. If your poverty is someone else's fault, your parents, the system, the economy, then you don't have to change anything. You can stay exactly where you are and feel completely justified about it. Andre had been comfortable for 28 years. That was about to end. The breaking point. One cold Tuesday in November, Andre came home to an eviction notice. 3 months behind on rent. He had 30 days to pay $2,400 or vacate. He sat on his couch staring at the paper, running through his options. There weren't many. That night, he swallowed his pride and called his uncle Robert, his mother's older brother, who had left the neighborhood 25 years ago and built a small construction business. The family rarely saw him anymore. Some said he thought he was too good for them. Andre asked for a loan. Just $2,400. He'd pay it back. There was a long silence. Andre, I'm not giving you money. Anger flared in Andre's chest. So you're doing well now and you can't help family? I'm not rich, Robert said, his voice calm and even. I'm comfortable because I made different choices than everyone else in our family. And giving you money won't help you. It'll just delay the inevitable. What's that supposed to mean? It means you're 28 years old, living the exact same life your mother lived, the same life your grandmother lived. You're following a script that's been passed down for 3 generations. And you're angry at me because I won't fund the next chapter. I didn't choose to be born poor. No, Robert said. You didn't. And that's not your fault. But you're choosing to stay poor. And that is. The words hit like a slap. I grew up in the same building you're in right now, Robert continued. Same hand-me-down clothes. Same food stamp meals. I watched our mother work herself into an early grave too. But I made a different decision. I decided that where I started wasn't where I'd finish. Easy to say that now. Robert's voice cracked. It wasn't easy. I worked 2 jobs and went to community college at night for 4 years. I lived on ramen noodles and walked 2 miles to save bus fare. I had no social life for half a decade. Everyone in the family said I was wasting my time. I didn't care. Because I knew something they didn't. What? That poverty is a starting line, not a life sentence. Whether you finish rich or poor is entirely determined by the choices you make from this point forward, every single day. Andre sat in silence, phone pressed to his ear, tears on his face. "Here's my offer," Robert said. "I won't give you money, but I'll give you something better, a chance. Meet me at my office Saturday at 7 a.m. If you show up, I'll show you exactly how I got from where you are to where I am. If you don't call me again asking for handouts. This is your choice. Your mother made hers. Now make yours." The line went dead. Andre sat in the dark, the eviction notice in one hand, his phone in the other. For the first time in his life, he understood with perfect clarity, no one was coming to save him. Not the government, not family, not luck. If his life was going to change, he had to change it. And that terrified him, because it meant he had no more excuses. The fork in the road. Saturday, 6:58 a.m. Andre stood outside his uncle's office, hands in his pockets, breath fogging in the cold. Part of him wanted to turn around. A bigger part of him knew this was the fork in the road. He knocked. Robert opened the door, coffee in hand, a flicker of approval on his face. "You came." "I came." They sat across from each other. Robert pulled out a whiteboard and drew 2 arrows. "Every person born into poverty stands at a crossroads," he said. He wrote above the first arrow, blame. Above the second, build. Path 1 is blame. This is where most people spend their entire lives. "I'm poor because my parents were poor. The system is against me. I never got a fair shot. Rich people have advantages I'll never have." Every one of those things might be partially true. But here's what they all have in common: they make you a victim. And victims don't build wealth. They wait for someone to rescue them. And no one ever comes. Andre shifted in his seat. He'd said every one of those things. Path 2 is build. It's harder, much harder, because it requires you to accept a brutal truth. You are 100% responsible for your future, even though you were 0% responsible for your past. Robert wrote 3 principles on the board. Principle 1. Your birth is your starting point, not your ceiling. Being born poor means you start the race further back. That's not fair. Life isn't fair. The question isn't whether it's fair. The question is what you're going to do about it. Principle 2. Wealth is built through 3 currencies. Poor people trade time for money. Wealthy people invest time in building skills that multiply their value. For 5 years, Robert traded his evenings for education, not television. Decisions. Every day, you make choices that either build toward wealth or keep you exactly where you are. Buying lottery tickets, wealth-destroying decision. Learning a marketable skill for free on YouTube, wealth-building decision. Venting with coworkers for an hour, wealth-destroying. Reading during that same hour, wealth-building. The gap between rich and poor is largely made up of thousands of these small, daily decisions compounded over years. Identity. This is the most important one. You cannot build wealth while you still see yourself as a poor person trying to get lucky. You have to shift your identity to someone who is actively building, not hoping. Robert's mother identified as a housekeeper until the day she died. Robert identified as a business owner while he was still mopping floors. Your identity shapes your decisions before you're even conscious of making them. So what do I do? Andre asked. I'm facing eviction in 30 days. Robert leaned forward. Here's what you're going to do. I'm offering you a job, labor on my construction sites, $18 an hour. 6 days a week, 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. That's $4 more per hour than you make now. But that's not the plan. From 4 p.m. to 9 p.m., 5 nights a week, you're going to learn. Not watch TV. Not scroll your phone. Learn plumbing, electrical, project management, business software, sales. Pick one skill that increases your income potential and become obsessed with it. For how long? 2 years minimum. If you do this, actually do it, you won't recognize your life in 2 years. You'll either be running crews for me at $65,000 a year, or you'll have started your own business, or you'll have moved into a skilled trade making 6 figures. Robert stood and extended his hand. But I don't accept excuses. No, I'm tired. No, it's too hard. No, I don't feel like it. You commit for 2 years, or you go back to path 1 and stay there. What's it going to be? Andre looked at his uncle's hand. He stood up and shook it. I'm in. The grind. The first 3 months nearly broke him. He was up at 4:45 every morning. Construction work until 3 p.m., exhausting, physical labor that left his body aching in ways he didn't know were possible. Then, instead of going home to collapse, he went to the public library. 4 to 9, 5 nights a week, teaching himself project management software, construction estimating, and business operations through free online courses. His friends thought he'd lost his mind. Bro, you're working yourself into the ground for what? You're still in the projects. Not for long, Andre would say. By month 6, he had saved $4,000, the first real savings he'd ever accumulated. He cleared his back rent. He bought work boots without holes. He felt something entirely new. Momentum. Robert noticed. You're learning faster than anyone I've put through this. I'm moving you to crew lead next month. By the end of year 1, Andre was managing 3-person crews, earning $24 an hour, had completed 6 professional certifications, and had moved out of the projects into a modest apartment he could afford on his own. But the more significant change was internal. He no longer thought of himself as Andre from Building C. He thought of himself as Andre, a project manager in the making. His friends were the same. His neighborhood was the same. But his identity had shifted, and identity drives everything. At the 18-month mark, his old warehouse job called. They were short-staffed and offering him a supervisor position, $22 an hour, easier work, more respect. All he had to do was walk away from the construction grind and return to the familiar. The old Andre would have taken it without a second thought. The new Andre said, "Thanks, but I'm building something bigger." At 22 months, Robert pulled him aside. "I'm opening a second location. I need someone to run full operations. Salary is $68,000 plus profit share. You interested?" Andre's voice was steady. "I'm ready." The other side. 6 months into running the second location, Andre had increased revenue by 34%, built and trained a crew of 8, and earned $73,000 in his first full year. He had $18,000 in an emergency fund and had opened a Roth IRA, something no one in his family had ever heard of, let alone owned. The most powerful moment came when he drove back to his old neighborhood to pick up some documents. He parked outside Building C and saw a kid, maybe 19, sitting on the front steps looking hollowed out. Andre got out of the car. "You okay?" The kid shrugged. "Just another day. Born poor, die poor. That's how it goes for people like us." Andre sat down next to him. 3 years ago, I was sitting on these same steps thinking the exact same thing. He told him everything. The eviction notice, the uncle's challenge, the 2 years of grinding, the identity shift, the transformation. The kid stared at him. "You're actually from here?" "Building C. Unit 204. 28 years. And you got out?" Andre shook his head. "I didn't get out. I built out. And you can too. But first you have to stop waiting for someone to save you and start saving yourself." He handed him Robert's business card. "If you want to change, call that number Monday morning. Show up ready to work. No excuses." The kid took the card and stared at it like he wasn't sure what to do with something that fragile. Andre stood up, looked at his old apartment one last time, and walked to his car. The cycle was broken. Andre's story isn't really about money. It's about the one truth that will either free you or keep you exactly where you are. You are not responsible for the hand you were dealt, but you are entirely responsible for how you play it. Being born into poverty, into a broken family, a struggling neighborhood, a system that wasn't built with you in mind, that was not your fault. You didn't choose your parents or your zip code or your starting point. But staying there is a choice. Because poverty isn't only a financial condition. It's a set of beliefs. This is just how life is for people like me. I can't get ahead without advantages I don't have. The game is rigged and I've already lost. As long as you hold those beliefs, your circumstances will confirm them every time. Every day, you stand at the same crossroads Andre stood at. Path 1, blame. Keep pointing at your past. Stay comfortable in the identity of someone life has wronged. Collect the sympathy of people who are just as stuck as you are. And arrive at the end of your life with a detailed and defensible explanation for why it wasn't your fault. Path to build. Accept full responsibility for your future while acknowledging you had no say in your past. Trade your evenings for education. Sacrifice short-term comfort for long-term leverage. Grind while others coast. And build a life your children won't have to escape. Here's where to start. Shift your identity. Stop saying I'm poor and start acting like someone who is building. Your words and your self-concept shape your decisions before you're aware you're making them. Audit your time. For 1 week, track every hour. How many went toward income? How much toward skill building? How much toward entertainment? The gap between where you are and where you want to be lives in that audit. 1 hour a day redirected toward learning is 365 hours a year, enough to build a real, marketable skill. Pick one skill and commit. Not 10. What? Something that meaningfully increases your income potential: plumbing, coding, sales, project management, electrical, design. Free resources exist for all of it. Spend 12 to 24 months mastering it, then leverage it. I can't promise wealth in 2 years. I can't promise it will be easy. But I can promise this: if you commit to building instead of blaming for the next 2 years, you will not be the same person. And 5 years from now, when someone asks how you did it, you'll say what Andre said. I stopped waiting for life to get easier and started getting better at life. Your birthplace is not your burial ground. Where you started is just a chapter. Where you finish is the whole story. And you're the only one holding the pen.